Okay, let's do it then. It is your instant match reaction for QPR 2, Everton 2. Everton going out ultimately on penalties. I think it was 8-7 in the end, or around about that. Disappointing night for the Blues again in the League Cup. We are live on YouTube tonight. If you've got any thoughts on that game, on any players, on the way Everton set up, on the way in which they went about it, give us a shout tonight. I'm joined by Ben Crawford and Lyndon Lloyd to pick the bones out of that one. Lyndon, I'll come to you first, mate. Me and Ben can at least retire to bed and forget that ever happened. You've got the whole day to stew on that one, so yeah. I'm sure there's plenty you want to get off your chest to start off with. But where do you think it went wrong for the Blues tonight?
Lack of urgency, lack of control over a match. I mean, to have 39% possession on a championship side's ground, regardless of who you've got on the pitch. I mean, we should have, and we talk about the depth of Everton's squad till the cows come home, but that we still should have enough quality, particularly once you've made the substitutions, to have put that game to bed. And it's just too many substandard performances, just a complete lack of cohesion at times, and then at other times we actually look, pretty good. If we have 4 or 5 Andros Townsends across the front of the line, then we win that match. But just not enough, and just not enough urgency. Just the last 10 minutes, we barely looked like we wanted to still be in the competition. They looked like they were playing like they thought there was going to be extra time. To let it go to a lottery of penalties is just. It's really, really annoying.
Ben, how do you feel after that, mate? Where do you think it went wrong?
I think it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what went wrong, because nothing really went right other than what happened at the boot of Andros Townsend. It's absolutely unacceptable that we're going out of this competition again against weaker opposition. I thought Rafa played a strong side, but it wasn't his strongest. And whenever you make in my book, whenever you make any kinds of changes for cup games and you go out to lower league opposition, there can be no excuses for me. It's, I've been really, really in the Rafa camp last few weeks, because he's really impressed me. But it's got to be worrying now that we're losing players game by game through injury. Digne looks like he might have a knock tonight. And, a team like QPR, okay, they had the home crowd, but to be fair, pretty sparse amounts of empty seats I saw. They've got more bottle, seemingly, than we have. And I know it's a complete side note that we'll probably get onto. It's not just because of his penalty miss, but I'm starting to think Tom Davies is just not even worth the number on his back at the moment, because he's not kicked on from when he was 17. And it's really concerning that I've just seen someone on Twitter post then that the one player, when they stepped up, we said he's going to miss, was him. And it's cost us, again, the rotation of the side. Okay, it was a stronger side, but when you're bringing on your best players in Decore and Damari Gray, you should be starting with them, trying to get the game won. Awful first half defended. Second half, I thought we shored it up quite a lot. But at the end of the day, you're playing lower league opposition, and it wasn't exactly a packed out crowd. It's unacceptable, and the manager as well as the team have got to take everything that comes their way, and they've got to accept it. And we've got to be very careful, because we've got Norwich at home at the weekend who haven't won a game yet. If they turn up to Goodison and we do anything other than win, I think Rafa's under pressure. I really do. 3 games, and he's lost them all. He has to do that.
Yeah, and we're United coming the week after that as well. But
exactly.
we'll get on to that a bit later. But I think Ben's right, isn't he, Lyndon? It's a tale as old as time. This, unfortunately, that when Everton play lower league teams in the League Cup, you never just stroll to a 3 or 4-0 win like I've seen some sides have done tonight. It's always a grind. And in fairness, everyone was delighted after the Huddersfield game and the way in which we got through there with 10 men. But there were similar signs on show in that one, weren't there? Where Everton made changes, obviously made a few more changes that night than they did tonight, but the urgency and the application wasn't necessarily there. You could tell there was a few lads undercooked, and you could tell there were a few players who, like you said, weren't particularly, too concerned about really staying in this competition. There wasn't that desperation and that aggression that you've seen from this team in early parts of the Premier League season. But I think the defending in the first part, I think from a Benitez side, you sort of expect Everton, even if they make changes, that they're going to be well drilled and they're going to be compact. And you mentioned the stat there about having 39% of the ball. That's obviously not good against a side like this, but you'd expect that in that situation that, you'd be compact, you'd be behind the ball, you'd be shutting the space down, you'd be counter-attacking well. But QPR didn't have sterile possession. They were unpicking Everton at will, weren't they, really, in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, on the selection thing, I mean, you're playing with fire every time you do it, and we do it season after season after season. And the narrative from the fans is always, we haven't won a trophy since '95, so let's just put everything into winning the one that other teams seem to care less about, and we approach it with the same rationale. And so anytime you make changes to a team, there's disruption. And yes, the argument is, again, that we should have the squad depth and the personnel to pull it off. But like I say, you are always playing with fire when you're bringing in players who are rusty, when you disrupt a solid starting 11. And I think, as Ben says, put your strongest players on to begin with, get the game 1-2-3-0 up, and then pull them off. This season, I suppose you could make the argument that this season of all seasons is that we really can't afford any more injuries. And obviously, hopefully Dean's just a knock, but I mean, if he's got a longer term issue, then Benitez will turn around and say, well, that just proves my point, that we couldn't risk our starters. So I can understand. I was happy enough with the starting 11. But then the onus is on those players to perform. And Tom Davis and Andre Gomez in midfield against QPR should be enough. But neither one of them showed anything like what you'd expect of a Premier League midfield. I mean, neither one of them closed down the spaces, like you say, enough, had enough drive with the ball going forward.
Is it just the case now, Linda, where you look at Tom Davis and say, as Ben said, he's not really kicked on. You look at Gomez after that injury. Is it just simply a case that those lads just can't do that job now? I put on Twitter during that first half that I think you could probably get away with one of those playing in a midfield three with Alan and Decore. Probably couldn't get away with one of them played alongside one of Alan and Decore, but together it's just a terrible match. There's no legs there. There's no defensive awareness there. They both seem to be better suited to play in a three instead of a two. It just felt like they were, as poor as they were given a job that they just could, neither of them can do anymore for various reasons.
Yeah, I mean, with Tom, this is the game. This is the one. Go out, lad, and show us. Prove that there's a case for you. Being not just a starter, being a substitute option for us. To come on late in games and see things out. But I think he's reached a point where we can almost draw a line under and say it's not going to happen. Gomez, I mean, I had my doubts about Gomez before the injury, to be honest. I wasn't even convinced that we should spend 25 million on him based on that second season, toward the end of his loan spell. But it was one of those situations where all the fans' opinion and emotion was in one direction, and I think for the club it was a no-brainer. But it's not worked out, and now we're in a situation where we have just so little depth in that part of the pitch that like you say, you can't even control a match against QPR. And I mean, to be fair to them, they did everything they needed to do. They played some good stuff, but they were playing through us at will at times, particularly down our right side, which was just frightening in the first half. And so, I mean, it's just worrying for the rest of the season, at least until January. Not that we really do much in January in terms of bringing in players, or even if we can this time. But it's going to be a long, long season if this is how the second string players are going to perform when they're given a chance.
And Ben, the centre backs as well, in fairness, they both got knocked around by Charlie Austin in the first half, which, to be honest, I didn't even realise the lad was still playing footy. I thought he'd probably retired. And, Godfrey got dragged out of position a little bit for that first goal. He gets, completely bullied by him for the second one in the air. And Ben's just having a bit of a rough start to the season, hasn't he? Obviously, people know he's had COVID, and I don't know if there's sort of any after effects of that, or he's struggling to gain match fitness. But you can sort of see at the moment why the manager's going with Mina and Keane for these Premier League games when he can and when they're both available.
Yeah, it's very concerning. Ben Godfrey, to be honest, I was very concerned tonight. I thought he was a little bit better second half. And to be fair, I don't think Benitez is going to have much of a selection headache now, because it's obvious that Ben Godfrey's probably going to be playing left back again for the foreseeable while Luca Dean looks to be out injured. But it's hard, because we look at Ben Godfrey, look at the promise he shown last season, and every Evertonian in the summer would have said any central defender we plays alongside Ben Godfrey. Ben Godfrey's your first choice, and then whoever plays with him. The fact that we're a couple of months, well, a month, nearly two into the season, and I don't even know whether he should be in that first choice is very concerning. Obviously, we don't know about the long effects of COVID and things like that, but it's the basics. It's not getting beat in the air by a striker who I thought was fortunate still to be playing in the Championship. To be honest, he absolutely bullied the two of them. Mason Holgate, I thought, played a little bit better than Anthony, but Mason Holgate's always been a bit suspect in the air against a dominant striker. But Ben Godfrey, that's his, that's what he's about. He's about relishing those physical battles and relishing that one-to-one sort of defensive action against attackers that will push him. And we didn't see that today. So it's really concerning with Ben Godfrey. And you can see why he's sticking with Mina and Keane, to be honest, for the league games. And it's just, I can't help but go back to the overriding feeling that I said it on my first point on the show. And you kind of alluded to it with the Man United suggestion. We've now got Norwich at home, who haven't won a game for a long time. So that's a bad omen. We've then got United away after that, and we're depleted as it is, and now we haven't got a left back. This could, I remember you saying at the start of the season, this could really all end in tears. It could all start, that process could start sooner than we imagined after that 3-1 win against Burnley, because we've blinked and now we've lost 2 games against opposition that we probably shouldn't be getting beat in both games by. Norwich is the same. If we don't go to Norwich, because the draw is basically a defeat in that game. So if we don't go and put a convincing display against Norwich, we then go to United and inevitably probably get battered. It becomes a very different outlook on the season, and it can, as much as you've got the narratives there about Benitez didn't get any money to spend, his squad depleted. He still had enough in that squad tonight to win that game, and Everton had enough in that squad to win that game. So for me, I can only harp on and say Corey should have started, Damari Gray should have started, Rondon wasn't fit to start. They shouldn't have took any risks with that, because he's took a risk with it, it's backfired. And the problem with taking risks is they can snowball very quickly in football. And Benitez, we know, he's not going to be given the benefits of the doubt by many, is what I'd say. So he's got to be very, very careful now ahead of the weekend.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, Lyndon? Because I think, like you said earlier, when the squad is so thin, you don't really want to get any more key players out injured. But the one tonight who obviously has gone off is Luca Dean, and listen, we don't know what the extent of it is yet. The manager's not said much. He seemed to be really involved in the game right up until he got substituted. He was linking well with Anthony Gordon, and it looked like he was sort of getting a bit of his old self back again after that goal in the first half. I thought he played pretty well in the second half, and you just sort of look at it down here and go, probably the one player you don't want to get injured out of all of them. We've got absolutely no cover whatsoever. Paddy Boylan mentioned on one of our shows we did the other day that the next left back at the club behind Luca Dean in the pecking order is 15 years old, and here we are where he's getting injured. But that's another massive blow, isn't it? I know he's not been playing particularly well, but I suppose it just goes to show, doesn't it? If you play these lads twice in 4 days in high intensity games away from home, then these things can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you have, more than one option in every position on the field. I mean, it's amazing that we are not only badly short in one fullback position, but both. I mean, it really is. It beggars belief. And so, I mean, I've resigned myself to the fact that we are going to have some particularly sticky patches this season. I think that the thing that I took from the start that we've made is that we've got points on the board, and we've demonstrated that we can win the games that, our home games in particular, that we would expect to win. And then whatever we can pick up from the games that we really don't expect to win, then that's a bonus. It's going to be a really, really difficult season. Going back to Godfrey's form, I think he's just an example of, as Mason Holgate found out last season, it's a continuity thing, it's a momentum thing, and once you get knocked out of your stride, it's amazing how quickly they can fall out of form, and things stop going right for you as much as they did before, and I think we've got a few players like that. And then we've on the flip side, you've got someone like Rondon coming in, who obviously hasn't played in the Premier League for a couple of years, and it shows. I was expecting a lot more physicality from him. From what I remembered of him, he was much more of a handful. But I mean, he was bullied off the ball routinely in that match tonight. And then of course, we didn't really have a focus up front. We looked our most dangerous with Andros Townsend and occasionally Anthony Gordon coming down the left. So yeah, it's inevitable. We're out, and I suppose the old adage is now we focus on the league and get on.
Yeah, we've been here before, haven't we? It is just on Godfrey very quickly. I sort of wonder if, trying to put a positive spin on this, maybe if he just plays at left back for a couple of games, that might help him for the time being. If he can just sort of go and play on the left of a back four, doesn't really have to do too much in terms of attack, and he can get the ball and leg it up the pitch a little bit every now and then, and get the Goodison crowd behind him a bit more.
But you know what? Is that really what we want? What we probably would all say pound for pound is our best central defender to have to do in a struggling side. I think all the superlatives we brought out about Godfrey are future, all this sort of rubbish already saying, future Everton captain, he's this, he's that. And like you said, there is a very valid point that you put him at left back, he'd probably get his confidence back and probably have a decent run in the side. But I want Ben Godfrey to be more than that. I want Ben Godfrey to be our starting central defender who leads by example, not someone who always has a bit of a shaky start, so we need to put him at left back to sort of to ease him in, because that's what you do with a young fullback like James Conn. You play him right wing to get him acclimatised to the Premier League. Ben Godfrey's 24 next year. He's not at that level. It is early in the season and he has been out, so he might not be fully match fit. But I would worry if this season is going to be all about Ben Godfrey being a utility player, because he should be so much more than that. To me, that's my opinion on him.
Yeah, we're already going to be back to potentially the four centre-backs across the back four again, aren't we? For the game at the weekend, if the full-backs are out injured. So yeah, that's unfortunately where we are with that. And, obviously everything get back in the game through Townsend. And, just sort of trying to finish on any kind of positive, Lyndon. I think if we're going to do that, Townsend and Gordon tonight, Andros Townsend, great pass for Luca Dean for that first goal. And then right place at the right time, albeit from a very scrappy corner. I think you can call it routine, but scrappy corner. But he was the only one. And again, I sort of put this on social media. You sort of get the sense of him that whether it's at Old Trafford in 10 days or against QPR tonight, whatever the circumstance, you're going to get the same sort of level, the same application from him. And that should be a given for all professional football players, but it's not, is it? And he is someone that just sort of is setting that bar at around the 7, 8 out of 10 at the moment for us.
Yeah, with the greatest respect to him, I mean, he's not the one that you'd expect to be the best player on the pitch. A free transfer signing from Crystal Palace, who you'd think would be, at this point, just phoning it in, at the end of his career. But he's come in, he's said all the right things, he's demonstrated all the right things, he's scored some really important goals, some cracking goals, and I thought he was excellent tonight. Even trying his best to sort of cover John Joe Kenny at right back as well. I think he was asked to do a lot tonight. And
even took a couple of corners with his right foot, which was bizarre.
Yeah, well, I don't know what goes on at Finch Farm when it comes to corners, because none of them can take a corner to save their lives right now.
I mean that doesn't say much about the other lads, does it?
$200K a week to come and take corners, honestly. But Townsend has been great, and it's it started in pre-season, and he's been the consistent one, but like I say, he's not really the one that you'd expect to be carrying the side. But fair play to him, and I think that he's a good inspiration for Gordon, who not everything came off for him tonight, but I thought that he did really well. And I think he's going to be a bit of a slow burner if we give him the time. to sort of come in at the end of games. Hopefully, when we're the game's safe, and he can build some confidence and become a useful player, if not a complete star at this point.
And on Gordon, Ben, you sort of look at him and think maybe Rondon looked knackered again tonight, didn't he? He's played 2 games in the space of 4 days. Sorry, he really struggled, and it's harsh on him to be thrown in at the deep end like he has been, if fairness, but he's not looked good so far. But sort of get the sense he might go to a sort of resembling Gray up front on Saturday, and maybe that could open a spot for Gordon. And based on how he played tonight, he probably deserves it, wouldn't he?
You know what? I'm going to have to be quite controversial here and say I wasn't actually that impressed with Anthony Gordon. I thought he looked lively, but that's all he did. I think with Anthony Gordon, he's another one like Davis, who I alluded to, who is going to, and Lyndon put it perfectly before, he's fighting for even not a place in the team, but a place on the bench. He's going to get limited opportunities. I mean, yeah, he played okay, but did he really take that opportunity? He was against championship defenders, and he didn't really create anything. He had 1 shot at goal, which was, for me, poor, because he hit it right to the goalkeeper. Would I be confident about Gordon starting against Norwich? I certainly wouldn't, to be honest. I think with Rondon, it's hard to say with Rondon because he is clearly not fit. And he looks out of shape, to be honest. He looks very heavy. I think the QPR fans were alluding to that as well, and some of the chanting in the first half, which was a bit blue. But to me, he looks like a competition winner at the moment. He's just chugging around the pitch, not even able to hold the ball up really well, right? So if we're going to, in the medium term, maybe have to bed him in sort of over a longer period of time because he's not match fit, I think Demarai Gray, you're absolutely right, Matt, will probably be used as that focal point up front. Whether that means Anthony Gordon plays, I'm not too sure, because for me personally, I thought he was given a big opportunity tonight. And he's a forward, so he didn't score, he didn't assist, and he didn't create any amazing challenge, in my opinion, for anyone else to score from. So I think with Anthony Gordon, I think we've got to be careful that we don't big him up too much, because at the end of the day, would you feel confident about him in a Premier League game? I probably wouldn't. And I think at the weekend, as much as he didn't really pull up any trees, and he didn't take a penalty, to be fair, which was interesting, I think Alex Iwobi is probably going to start on the left-hand side on Saturday. He's not, if we do, as you've alluded to there, Matt, we played Demarai Gray front. So I want to see a little bit more from Anthony Gordon, because I'm seeing a few worrying parallels with Tom Davies, where I hope he's not going to be one of them players who just bursts onto the scene a little bit and then just completely plateaus. So let's see, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm on a podcast and he has time saying how great he is, but I've not seen anything from Anthony Gordon tonight personally that fills me with any confidence that he can be any kind of answer other than someone to bring on in a Carabao Cup game.
Lyndon, what do you reckon it's going to look like on Saturday? It's it's going to be tough for Rondon, isn't it, to go to the well again? Because we're going to have 3 days of training potentially before that game. Potentially one of those days will be recovery. It might see a bit of a mad system and a mad setup, mightn't we, on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to see him start on the bench, to be honest, and give and have Gray as the focal point. We look so much better with Demarai Gray in the team. Alex Iwobi, he's so hot and cold, but he's in the league, at least he started the season pretty well. I'm pulling my hair out what hair I have left out tonight. With him, just his use of the ball just is so frustrating. But I haven't seen much of Norwich, so I'm not sure how they're set up at the back. But I would like us to put the emphasis on our speed in transition, the way that we've been playing at home. And leave Rondon on the bench this time, and maybe bring him on in the second half. But that's the way I would go anyway.
Yeah, just a case of getting 11 lads who are fit, I suppose, at this point as well. We'll just rattle through a few comments. Joseph Cooper saying it was a cup game. Gomez should have bossed it. He had 2 shots, could not get close to the goal.
Another one though, isn't he? Oh.
I mean, it's shooting for someone who's technically a really good player.
Is he though? Is he technically a really good? He can't pass, he can't tackle, he can't shoot. He can't though, can he?
We've got Mike Winstanley saying, "Who do we think we are? I wasn't optimistic. Too many injuries, too many poor players on show. Why is it a shock? All right, is it Benitez's fault? These players are dross." And Connor said, "Never fancied us if it went to Pennos. Haven't seen Begovic in pre-season. who failed to save any from an outfield player.
He was poor today.
Did look like he had the lead boots on, didn't he, Lyndon, going down to some of those penalties?
Well, the thing that I've noticed about the penalties, and I noticed it in the preseason game, and some of the other ones in the World Cup, is the players have figured out now if you lift it over the keeper, you're going to score. And most of the penalties that were taken tonight all went pretty high off the ground, apart from Tom Davis, who tried to be cute and sneak it in the corner. So I think that might be an adjustment that the keepers have to make now, is that people seem to be putting these kicks higher because we're out of the keeper's reach, which obviously has risks of spooning it over the bar. But I mean, there were some really good penalties on show tonight, apart from the crucial one.
Yeah, and Ben Godfrey's initial one, which obviously was retaken in the end. Yeah, we did have the luck tonight as well, and we still couldn't get over the line. But there we go.
We maybe should have had a penalty though, but I know that balances up, that evens out with the fact that our goal was about 5 yards offside.
Yeah, it looked a little dodgy, didn't it?
Yeah. Someone sent me a screenshot suggesting it wasn't, but looked very tight, didn't it? Looked very tight.
Doesn't matter now, does it?
Yeah, I mean, after that beautifully crafted second goal, we really unfortunate, but we'll leave it there, lads. Unfortunate Everton are out of the League Cup again for another season, but we've been here before, haven't we? Hopefully things can turn around against Norwich on Saturday, although I just read they've lost their last 15 Premier League games in a row.
Record.
15 Premier League games in a row.
It's nailed on, isn't it?
Get your money on it.
Last time they came to Goodison, they won as well, didn't they? They won 2-0. So
that was Marco Silva gone.
Dear me, yeah. But hopefully the 4 centre-backs, Anthony Gordon and the lads, can all get them over the line on Saturday. But we'll see. We'll be there. We'll have a post-match reaction, and we'll be building up to that game this week as well. Do check out Lyndon's stuff on Toppy Web after this game. I'm sure he'll have some fantastic stuff as ever. And also get over to the Blue Room Extra and listen to the Monday show, which Ben had with Paddy Boyland and Adam Jones. A heavyweight lineup there on Monday.
A lot of times, Matt. Monday afternoon, how happy I was. Looking forward to the week's football. Happy at time.
All we had to worry about then was James Rodriguez and whether he was going to Qatar or not. And there's loads of stuff
in the podcast. Could have done with him tonight, couldn't we?
there's loads of stuff in the podcast about that as well, and all the other stuff going on in the Premier League at the moment. So that's patreon.com/the Blue Room Extra. If you want to get involved in that, thanks everyone watching on YouTube. Cheers to everyone listening as well. I think Les might be doing a Twitter Spaces as we speak after last week's failed experiments, but we'll give it a go. But yeah, cheers for tuning in. We'll speak to you soon.